Well, let's take a look at dividing complex numbers. The first thing you got to know how to do in order to divide complex numbers is to remember what a complex conjugate is. So let's be real quick with that. A complex conjugate means you just take the original term and you change the imaginary number to the opposite sign. So negative 2 plus 3i would be negative 2 minus 3i. The real number stays the same, the complex number changes to the opposite sign. So 4 minus 6i would be 4 plus 6i. Real stays the same, and the complex number changes to the opposite sign. So that's the first step on dividing complex numbers, is you have to take that denominator, whatever's on the bottom of the fraction, that's what you're dividing by, and you have to decide what's the complex conjugate for that denominator. For 7i, this is only an imaginary part, so that's the part that changes to the opposite sign. So the complex conjugate is negative 7i. So you're going to take whatever that complex conjugate is and you're going to multiply the top and bottom by that. So dividing complex numbers is really just multiplying the top and bottom by a complex conjugate. Okay, so you're going to take the top, let's multiply across the top. Now, what we're saying is negative 7i times those two things. So it's like distributive property, but it looks backwards. So if I feel like I'm not good at math, I'm probably just going to write it this way and make it easy for myself. So I'm going to take this and put it in front, and what did I leave off? I left off the I, which is hugely important. And so I'm multiplying it by this. So now I'm going to distribute, and it looks like distributive property that we've been doing for a long time, and I know what to do there. So negative 42, and I've got the I. Negative times negative is positive 35. And then I have I times I, which is I squared. Now, I squared equals negative 1. That is the same thing. I squared is negative 1. So that means that this is 35 times I squared, which means this is 35 times negative 1. Well, positive times negative is negative. So I really have negative 42i minus 35, because this positive 35 times a negative 1 is negative 35. Alright, so that's what I have on top. Negative 42i minus 35. Alright, on the bottom I just have the two terms, so that's simpler to do. Positive times negative is negative 49, and then I squared. And so I know I squared is negative 1. And so if I mark that out and change it to negative 1 in parentheses, because I want to remember that I'm multiplying these two things. Negative times negative is a positive 49. So the bottom number here is 49. So let me clean this up so I'm not looking at all of it. And I'm doing that for space. If I was on a piece of paper, I'd have lots of room. I'd have it spread out. Alright, so now let's look at the fractions, because we're close. We've done the multiplying. Now we just have to simplify or clean it up. Sometimes your teacher will say clean up the fraction. And I find that cleaning up the fraction can sometimes be the hardest part. So what I'm going to do is separate this. I'm going to split it up, and I'm going to put the first part, negative 42i, over the 49. And I'm going to take the second part, negative 35 over 49. And I'm going to go to my calculator and type in negative 42 over 49. Now I don't need the I in the calculator. Don't need that. Just type in the number part. The number part. And see what it reduces to. So that's going to reduce to negative 6i over 7. On your calculator, 42 over 49 reduces to 6/7. And so you just keep the I where it was on top of the fraction. This will reduce also. So by 7, that's going to be negative 5 over 7. So I see that I have the same number on the bottom. So that means that I have a couple of ways I can write my final answer. Because at this point, I'm really close to the final answer. I don't need that part anymore. So from here, I'm going to write my final answer here. And these are my two pieces. This is the standard form for complex numbers, a plus bi. All that means is the real part plus the imaginary part. So of these, think which one's the real part and which one's the imaginary. The imaginary is the part with the I in it, because I stands for imaginary. So the real part comes first. So negative 5/7 comes first. And then the imaginary minus 6i over 7. Okay? That's my final answer, and that's how I would leave it. Your teacher may very well want for you to write that all as one fraction. Because the denominators are the same, you can put all of it over 7, and it's the same thing. These are the same answer. It just preference, just a variety of preferences, and so this is fine or this is fine, but you need to look back at your notes and look at how your teacher, did her examples as far as what she's looking for. But you also need to know, like for when you take the SAT or something, that if you get this answer and you see this as an answer choice, that they're the same thing. All right, you're good. You've got this.